This is Tom with the Crypto Crew, and today we're talking to Tom Baker about his recent track find. How are you today, Tom?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
I'm glad you could do this. I guess our first question would be, or statement would be, tell us where you was at and what you were doing when you found this track.
Sure. I can't get into exact specifics of where I was, but I can tell you that we were in the northern Olympic Mountains, near the national park and near the national forest, in and around the Lake Crescent area in general. We had been on the expedition for 2.5 to 3 days, and we were making our final hike in the morning before people had to depart for their homes. And we were walking along I wouldn't say a well-used trail, but a trail that was well-known to the expedition. And we weren't but maybe a half mile into the hike, and I noticed a track that was, or what appeared to be a track, just off the left-hand side of the trail. And it wasn't on the main part of the trail where the dirt was stamped down. It was actually off to the left-hand side and left a fairly decent impression. The thing that stuck out to me most was certainly the length, the fact that the walls were continuous. So the side walls of this track were continuous, as were the aft and what appeared to be at the time toe walls. And that was, obviously nothing is confirmed or definitive or anything like that ever in this business, but it did appear to have toes, and it was a track that we felt was good enough to cast. It wasn't, like I said, definitive in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't in thick mud where you could say, yeah, no kidding, that is a track. But we all felt that it was good enough to cast, and so Derek Randles from the Olympic Project and Ridge Walkers Unlimited went back and got the hydrocal and cast it, and now it's drying in my garage like a Christmas present, waiting to be opened. So we're letting it dry for a little bit, and then we'll see what we got.
Was there more than one track in the area, or just that one definitive track?
There was that one definitive track. However, we were able to locate what we feel were, it's difficult to describe, almost toe pokes, as if you are walking down a hill attempting to slow yourself down where your toes may dig in. There were some pretty good kick-ups of some dirt at, maybe a stride length of about 48 to 50 inches. And it was fairly regular right-left toe pokes as you were going down a hill. There was also another print that was a little bit less definitive. It did lead to the credence of the original print as we walked along down the trail and found those other impressions. Again, not quite definitive, but certainly when you put the whole story together, it started to make sense.
Right, just another piece of the puzzle, so to speak.
Exactly.
How long was the track? How many inches was it?
It was approximately 17.5 to 18 inches long by 7 inches wide, sidewall to sidewall. So it kind of fit a fairly large, the mold, no pun intended, of a fairly large track.
Yeah, that was a nice one. While you all was casting the track and as you found it, was there any noises or anything you heard off in the woods, tree breaks or anything like that?
No, there was not. In fact, during the entire expedition, there was very little activity. There was some, I believe, on the second night with a group that was down lower in the mountains while a group of us were up high, kind of established ourselves in a cave one evening. But no, at that time there were no noises or other indications that something was there that morning. I will say that Derek Randles took a group on that lower trail the night before, and his comment was that track was not there the night before. He would have seen it.
So it had to be pretty recent then.
We were thinking it was within certainly the last 12 to 14 hours.
That's pretty fresh. Was this your first time of finding tracks yourself, or had you found other tracks in the past?
No, this was my first.
Oh.
And it was pretty special. You know, just having thought about it for years since I was a kid, you know, watching the show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and kind of that's where it all started for me. And then I was prior military, so I wasn't able to kind of search and get established the way I really wanted to. So now that we're here in the Pacific Northwest, you know, I got on board with Derek and James from Olympic Project, and you know, just having all those pieces kind of come together, it was kind of a special moment. For me to be able to find what, again, you know, you never know, but, you know, looked very much like a track.
How long have you been researching Bigfoot? Is something new for you, actually going out into the, you know, on expeditions, or you've been doing it a while?
I would say that I have been doing it off and on for quite a long time, but this was certainly my most focused effort. You know, I'm a fisherman. I love hiking, and you know, you're always keeping your eyes and ears open and being aware of your surroundings. I would say that this was my first focused expedition, getting out with other Bigfooters and learning how they do it, and really focusing our attention on that sole purpose.
Well, I would say you're probably pretty hooked now since you found a track. You'll probably want to do it a lot more.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going out tomorrow, so I think that's a pretty good indication. Yeah.
Now, I know Derek and Ridge Walkers Unlimited have more expeditions lined up. Could you tell us maybe about your experience on the expedition, how you enjoyed it, and things that you found interesting?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, I wasn't really sure what to expect. When I spoke with Derek on the phone, incredibly informative and very organized. And I would give, you know, them my absolute highest recommendation to anyone who wants to get out in the woods and do something, you know, get involved in an expedition, talk to fellow Bigfooters. Derek and James alike are extremely professional. They are, like I said, well organized. They know their stuff probably better than anyone I have ever met, and probably will ever meet. They are people who know what they're doing and love what they're doing, and love to, and they have no problem giving out information and teaching people how to be better at looking for different signs and tracks and sounds and everything else. The base camp itself is fantastic. It's you know, it is certainly not the you know, the Seattle Hilton, but it is very comfortable. It's a large facility, large-ish facility that, you know, you've got a wood stove. It's got you know, everything you need for cooking. It's got a you know, refrigerator, and they've got a projector system for showing different you know, movies, if you like, in terms of, you know, for different classes. They've even got a Bigfoot bar that everybody's signing, so I recommend everybody get up there to sign the Bigfoot bar, and, you know, that comes in handy after a long night hike. So we all had an absolutely fantastic time, and it's something I'll never forget. You know, the accommodations, we stayed in a walled tent that had you know, like an expedition type tent that had a little wood burning stove in there, and it was a little slice of heaven to be in there after a long hike, or after coming down out of the mountain being wet, as you tend to do, and, you know, tend to get in the Pacific Northwest. It was an absolutely wonderful experience, and I would highly recommend it. Getting in touch with those guys, the Olympic Projects and Ridge Walkers Unlimited, getting in touch with Derek and James, and getting on board with one of their expeditions.
Well, what I found interesting about it was that they actually give some training classes on how to, you know, collect evidence and what to look for. Now, within our group, I do train our people to some degree through email and videos and things like that, and it's good to get that out there, because a lot of times people overlook evidence or they mishandle it.
Yes, absolutely, and that's something that I learned as well. You know, when we learned how to rig up trail cams, we learned how to use hydrocal in casting. We learned I learned just by being around Derek and James how to track. You know, how to look for those broken twigs and those impressions and what they look like and what they don't look like. More importantly, so. They are very professional and go about it very deliberately, and I can't wait to get back out in the woods with those guys, because you just learn so much just from being around them.
Yeah, they've been at this for a long time, and they know what they're doing, and and if they can train other people to get out in the woods and know what to look for, it just helps the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the biggest things that they stressed is documentation. What we're doing in general is looking for patterns. And if we can get solid documentation, even if it's circumstantial, that says, certain vegetation was in the area, this is how close to water, this is what elevation at what time of year, time of day, all of those little pieces of the puzzle, when brought together, will eventually start to look like a full picture. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find all those little pieces through documentation, bring them together, put it on their website, and or just make sure that they get it in their database, and it will start to narrow down. I mean, now when you look at the expanse of wilderness that's out there, if we can start to narrow down the locations and start to fine-tune the search, that's where we're going to start to get sightings, and that's where we're going to start to see things happen.
I agree with you. A lot of times we'll mark a sighting on a map, and over time you can establish a pattern. Well, at this time of year, they're seen in this area, and it gives you an idea where to look, and that way you can focus your efforts a little better.
Exactly.
And anything else you'd like to tell us about your track find?
Well, right now it's like I said, it's kind of sitting there, just drying. It's and we're waiting to find out what we've got. I'm not overly optimistic. I think that the hydrocal was a little bit loose when we set it down, and it kind of found its way into every nook and cranny and of those little twigs and leaves, and the impression might not be as pure as some others that may have been laid in the like a thick mud or a more optimum substrate where a cast can be more clear. But Cliff Barackman, while we were there, was absolutely fantastic. Craig Flippy, his cameraman and fellow Bigfooter, was there. That was amazing to be around. Those guys are fantastic. We also had Guy Edwards from the Bigfoot Lunch Club. He was with us. Incredibly informative group. Matthew Johnson, who's just an amazing Bigfooter. It was kind of an elite cast of crew that we had at the site, and it was amazing just to be able to listen to their stories, learn from them. And like I said, I would highly recommend getting out with Derek and James at the Olympic Project and getting out in the woods with those guys.
Well, it sounds like you had a whole lot of real good, intelligent people, on the expedition, and sharing stories like how you found the track, and that stuff like that needs to get out, so it helps other people who come forward. And a lot of times people are afraid to come and tell what they saw or what they found because of ridicule, and we need to get past that and start sharing the stories.
Yep, I agree, and I'll put out right away that I'm a believer. I'm not a knower. I'm someone who has a little bit more of a military background. I need to see things and see them clearly before I'll get it fully on board. But I'm out there and I'm looking, and because I am a believer, and I'm hoping to see something or hear something. My wife and I heard a couple of whoops, in the woods while we were camping or at a lodge a couple of months ago. And, it just makes it interesting, and the pieces do come together. And listening to people like Cliff Barackman from the show Finding Bigfoot, he was out there. He's a self-described Bigfoot nerd, and one of the nicest, most laid-back people you will ever meet. Very open with information, and just learned an incredible amount just from being around him. Has no problem answering questions, and put on a great presentation for us. So, yeah, I probably kind of circumnavigated the question just a little bit, but yeah, that's it was a fantastic experience and highly recommended.
Well, it sounds like you enjoyed yourself, and that's the main thing. While you're out there, you want to enjoy what you do. Shouldn't look at it as really as work or anything like that, because you gotta like doing it, and that makes it so much better if you can enjoy it with your family or with friends while you're out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you.
But I sure do appreciate your time, and just keep us posted on anything else that you find. We'd really be interested in talking to you again if you find more or hear more. And I can't wait to see the cleaned up version of the cast. I've seen the picture you sent. So, and whatever it is, it was very large. A over 17-inch track is a big track.
Sure is. Yeah, no, I appreciate the time, Tom. You've got a fantastic website. It's great to get that information out there, and I appreciate you guys doing what you're doing with your site through these interviews and talking with people. So thanks for doing what you do, and hopefully we can keep in touch in the future.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, you bet.
A hairy-looking snowman living deep within the woods. The Yeti waved at me from the shadow of his hood. Squatch on, I will see you, my old friend. Squatch on, we will meet someday again. He stands about 7 foot tall, at least that's what they say. A deep